So I went back and I found in my phone something from October 18th, 2022. Take a look at this, guys. Boys' costumes. I was actually looking for a costume for my son, who was around 9 years old at the time, and he wanted to be Dash. Okay, Dash, you know, from the Disney Pixar Incredibles, and the little boy who runs really fast. My son's a really fast runner, so he wanted to be Dash. And I took a picture of this at the time, and I went back and I found it specifically for today's show because I was livid. Okay, what do we see here? Boys' costumes. And then what do you see? These are the top costumes that come up. The Jasmine costume for kids, the Belle costume for kids, Beauty and the Beast. And then they get the Mirabelle costume for kids from El Canto. And so it goes. I mean, the first 5 costumes are like princess costumes. What is going on? The Aurora costume for Sleeping Beauty, Moana. And I kept doing it. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. I mean, I'm annoyed. I'm offended now. I'm looking for a boy's costume. I just want to be Dash, right? My son just wants to be Dash from The Incredibles. And this is the garbage. What the heck is going on? And just again, to reiterate, I took pictures, I took video. Boys' costumes. This is the first thing that came up. So these people, they got some explaining to do. And this is why I like what Brendan is saying. He wants to go back in time and find out not just what's going on now, but anything that's recently ended. Because, of course, they had 2 DEI programs that they recently came out in the last couple of weeks and said that they were suspending, right? Well, what about all this that was going down? What about the people that lost jobs in movies because you had to give it to 50% underrepresented groups? Or what about people like Gina Carano, right? Gina Carano, you remember her? She had a big Disney career. And then all of a sudden she gets fired because she doesn't buy into their he, her, their, them, I don't know, you know, the pronoun thing, right? That Rachel Zegler, who was so aptly cast as Snow White for the wokeified version that miserably failed at the box office and will continue to do so, Gina Carano did this interview with Tucker and she's like, yeah, you know, they got rid of me because of this. This is not right. This is not constitutional. This is not legal. Listen to Gina.
When I wouldn't hashtag trans rights and I wouldn't put my pronouns in, like they kept on it pressuring. And finally, I just said, I'm not doing this. You know, like I'm not like, what are the pronouns? I didn't even know what people were talking about. I was just not clued in to the pronouns thing, which apparently that's been happening for like 7-8 years now, right? It's been happening.
But no one has ever explained its purpose. What I mean,
I didn't know.
You're just supposed to know.
Yeah.
And if you don't know, you're a bigot.
Yeah. Well, then I put beep bop boop in my
beep bop boop.
Yeah.
So that, if I'm translating, that just means middle finger to you, right?
That just meant I can put anything I want in my bio. I can do whatever I want. That's all that was.
Because you thought it was a free country.
Yeah, because I thought it was. Yes.
Yeah, right.
But I was
just trying to follow your train of reasoning here.
Yeah, you can put anything in your bio that you want, and the whole, you know, meltdown that caused was just, I mean, and then, you know. In
a bad way, or are people impressed? I'm impressed.
No, I mean, it's cool now, but this was, mind you, this was like a year and a half ago. So this was like, I was speaking out about lockdowns, mass vaccinations, and pronouns way before anybody was even like saying a word about it. And so I was a little bit ahead. I'm sure if I would have done that now, it wouldn't have been a big deal. But because I was talking about this when nobody else was talking about it, especially nobody else in my industry, it was like Lucasfilm called me and they were like, okay, we're going to need you to go on a Zoom call with 45 of our, you know, LGBTQ, you know, community. And we have to get you on the phone with these people. We need to have you watch all of these these movies about the trans lives, documentaries, and I was like, okay, I'll watch your documentaries and I'll talk to your people, but I'm not going to get on a Zoom call with 45 different people who can have their phones out videotaping me, and I feel like that's extremely abusive.
Yeah, well, they were pretty abusive to her, and then they fired her because she put beep, bop, boop for her pronouns. And Rachel Zegler, the Snow White from H-E-double-L, that totally tanked the box office, so much so that the producer's son is even like going on and on about it. I mean, she was just a disaster in every shape, way, and form, and a very, very entitled little 20 20-year-old, maybe she's 22 now, I think she's still 20, little actress from New Jersey who got a little too big, a little too fast, and didn't really understand how the world actually works. And she was up there on her soapbox. She was attacking Gina left and right. And I know how that feels. I mean, yours truly, right? What did I say? This is ridiculous that we're shutting down the economy and the country, and this is going to be basically used against Trump. Back in March 2020, I said all that, and I suffered a penalty too, which is why we're independent here. And by the way, I'm very thankful to be independent because this is where it's at. This is the future. Streaming is everything right now, and I don't have to deal with all the corporate stuff and blah, blah, blah. So it all worked out in the end. But I know what Gina felt like. I know what that's like. To all of a sudden have your employer say, hey, I'm going to see you because you're not prescribing to the status quo kind of thought that they want you to have. And so, in her case, she's actually suing. She's suing Disney, and she's got Elon Musk backing to do it. But overall, let's talk about this in terms of the lawsuit itself, or the investigation, I should say itself, because Bob Iger allowed this all to happen. Why did he allow this to happen? What was in it for him? I think that they were even, according to this letter, tying bonuses for executives to how much they were able to kind of meet these quotas on having 50% or more writers, directors, crew, and vendors be selected based on group identity. How crazy is that? It appears, Brandon Carr writes, that executive bonuses may have been tied to DEI performance, and ABC has utilized race-based hiring databases and restricted fellowships to select demographic groups. That's illegal. Okay, that's discrimination. And this company is going to go down because of it. You know what? Brandon's going to make sure that ABC goes bye-bye. Because you know what? They can revoke all those licenses. Who the heck wants The View anyway? Which, by the way, I'm going to get to this, why Whoopi Goldberg is so darn nervous right now. He writes, although your company recently made some changes to how it brands certain efforts, it is not clear that the underlying policies have changed in a fundamental manner, nor that past practices complied with relevant FCC regulations. They didn't comply with FCC regulations. They didn't comply with the Constitution. Thank you very much. You can't just say we're not going to give you the part because you're not black or you're not Hispanic or you're not trans. Come on. This is great too. He says in the very beginning, he makes the point about how this was such an iconic American company. It's kind of sad to watch this, right? Like I'm looking at this company whose stock price was over $200 just 5 years ago and now is trading around 90 something. He writes, Dear Mr. Iger, I'm writing to inform you about the FCC Enforcement Bureau's opening of an investigation into Disney and ABC. He goes on and he says, basically, this was once a great company. Disney started out a century ago as an iconic American company. For decades, Disney focused on churning out box office and programming successes, but then something changed. Disney has now been embroiled in rounds of controversy surrounding its DEI policies. Numerous reports indicate that Disney's leadership went all in on invidious forms of DEI discrimination a few years ago, and apparently did so in a manner that affected many aspects of your company's decision. As you know, the Communications Act and communications rules prohibits regulated entities like Disney's ABC from discriminating on the basis of race, color, religion, natural origin, age, or gender. And yet this is what they were doing. So the FCC has a lot of bandwidth here, and Disney's really scared. Remember how Bob Iger told us he wanted to sell off all he could of the ABC stuff, any of the sort of traditional cable. He wanted to get rid of traditional cable, traditional network television. The network stuff is in part because of this, because he falls under Brandon Carr's jurisdiction. And so this is going to be a super headache. Like they get it. I'm sorry. Like I'm just over this company. I you can only take so much. You can only take so much. And I think this was what did it for me. I mean, what would you guys think? You're shopping for your son's costume on Disney, October 18th, 2022, looking for a boy's costume. I'm in the boys' costume section. Take a look at that. And the top costumes they pitched me are a bunch of princess outfits? Come on, like no, all right? Enough already. Your programming sucks. Your costume selection sucks. Your stock price sucks. Disney, I don't know what the answer is. I think you got to get rid of Bob. I mean, maybe Bob's the problem. Granted, it's kind of endemic, right? Like the whole system has been polluted by these employees that believe they are entitled, and you bring all these people in because they check off all these boxes, and maybe they don't know how to do their jobs, and they don't care about doing their jobs. Because guess what? They don't care where the stock price is. They don't care whether the company makes money or not. They're just there to promote their agenda. And that has to end. That's part of why Donald Trump, by the way, was elected. If you guys had any sense in the world, like any sense, you would actually understand, one, as a business, you want to turn out movies that people actually want to see. Two, you got to abide by the Constitution, which means you can't be discriminating against people and saying, well, we're not going to give you this job as Little Mermaid because you're white. Three, you got to actually play ball with this new administration, and not just play ball. You've got to change everything. Let's go back to, how it used to be. Remember Michael Eisner? I remember him because he actually had a show on CNBC while I was at CNBC. Michael Eisner really believed in sort of what Disney could be. And then you bring Bob Iger, who had a political bias, granted, and something happened. Like something happened on the way to the forum. And then Bob Chapek, who was the other Bob, who really was a disaster, they brought Bob Iger back in. But I think it actually starts at the top. I always do. And if you have bad management that is encouraging this and allowing this, then you are going to be left with a company that is just basically a shadow of itself, right? A shadow of what it could once be. We discussed this previously, but I can tell you, there's not anything there in the company because you've loaded up on all the woke employees. You have no entertainment division anymore. You should have listened to Nelson Peltz way back when he was trying to sell off parts of the company. He was the activist investor who came in and said things have got to change. They didn't take his advice. They have doubled down on nonsense, and now they are going to pay the price. And you know who else is going to pay the price? Whoopi Goldberg is going to pay the price. We did a big report on Disney recently in the 76 Research newsletter. I encourage you to go and take a look at this. These are our portfolios, all of which have been beating the S&P, which is a good thing to be beating right about now. I think the market's down a little bit today. Volatility's back, guys, so you want to know what you're doing. I encourage you to go check out my financial research newsletter, 76 Research. Just use code $, so you can get it cheaply. First 2 months, just $1. Whoopi Goldberg is freaking out right now as this FCC investigation makes news all over the hallways and all through the hallways at ABC News. You see, Whoopi has a certain history with Donald Trump. She used to like to spit when she said his name, for example.
You can't refute anything with him because he just, when I say him, I mean...
He rambles.
Trump.
Yeah.
He tends to just...
But can I mention one thing? Because Trump is out there calling...
Did you say his name?
I said his name.
Oh,
yeah, it was a trick and it made me do it. But I'm just saying that that Biden knows...
So you see, she has to spit when she says his name. There was that moment when she suggested fraudulently, and look, by the way, I'm all for free speech, right? You can say whatever you want, but in this particular case, you are governed by FCC rules. You do have some responsibility to present the truth. They don't present the truth in any way, shape, or form. They had a bunch of ladies that just piled onto him and made up stuff like this, that he's going to put you in a camp. Like some kind of, going back to the Hitler days, of course, again, he's going to put you in a camp if you don't agree with him.
What's interesting for me is that...
Spit it out.
People's faith in the country is waning.
Yes.
That's the thing that's pissing me off. Because, in fact... There's a reason Joe Biden ran the way he did. There's a reason he's running for democracy now, because that's really what's at stake. You worried that you can't pay your bill? Wait till the other guy becomes president, and you won't have to worry about it because you'll be in some camp somewhere, because that's his promise. His promise to us is he's going to force people to do his bidding. That's what he said. I'm going to be good on day one, and I'm going to turn into this other person. So here's
you hear that, guys? Because you're going to be in a camp somewhere? That's what she was saying during the election. She really did not want him to win. I'm guessing Bob Iger did not want him to win. Don't forget, Bob took away all funding that Disney had, all advertising on Twitter, now known as X, as soon as Elon got in there. Elon didn't appreciate it very much. What did he say? You think that you can manipulate me or control me with money? Well, F you, Bob. You listening? F you, Bob. Well, then, just a couple of weeks ago, this was on March 11th, 2025, you had Whoopi back on the show pitching misinformation once again. Misinformation about Joe Biden.
This helped send the market into free fall yesterday, which some MAGA folks are blaming on the Biden economy. Oh, boy. So let me just remind you about the Biden economy, okay? The economy added 16.6 million jobs and gross domestic product grew 12.6. They are the only administration in history to have created jobs every single month.
Yes.
They achieved...
You really want to go back to the Biden economy? I mean, really, you want to take that on? She's reading from her notes because she doesn't know anything. Well, I can tell you right off the top of my head. Guess what? CPI, Consumer Price Index, it was upwards of 9% shortly after Biden came in because he printed all that money. And then he had Nancy and Chuck printing much more, trillions of dollars that they were trying to pump into this economy. He put forward a third COVID stimulus check. He had the Fed going to town all day long. They printed. Not only was CPI, Consumer Price Index, up, guess what? PPI was in double digits. I mean, we've never recovered from this, okay? I still recently was on vacation. I'm like, are you kidding me? How much is this hotel room? I'm still like in this sticker shock mode. You go to the grocery store, things have come down a little bit. You go to fill up your gas tank, things have come down a little bit, but still we're way ahead of where we were. That is the reality of the Biden economy, and that is a big part of why he's out of there. Whoopi, you can say all these lies, but I'm telling you, you got the FCC breathing down your back right now, so I'd be a little bit more careful. She's terrified, okay? She's terrified, guys, because 1, they've already fired a bunch of her producers. 2, they've already put her on notice. Lately, she's been trying to attack Elon Musk instead of one Donald Trump because she knows the handwriting is on the wall. She does not have that gig much longer. Joy Behar, what did she do? She sold her house out in Sag Harbor, or is trying to sell it for $10.5 million, all 4,000 square feet of the little salt box. And, well, you know what? I guess prices are high in Sag Harbor. I wonder if Letitia should take a look at that. $10.5 million. I'm joking, of course, but, that's effectively what she did with Donald Trump, getting in the way of a private transaction. Joy Behar must see the handwriting on the wall. In other words, they know they are going to be the sacrificial lambs when it's all said and done. The View is going away because it should. There is no way that the FCC should be allowing broadcast licenses to ABC affiliates paying for that kind of garbage. It is garbage. You guys want to do that? You can go stream it and see if anybody watches. They won't. Because that is not a product worth consuming. So they are scared at the View. They are panicked. They know that their days are numbered, but they should be. And this investigation is going to cause all kinds of other issues. Bob Iger is not doing a good job. I'm just looking at Don Backus' comments. He used to trade Disney, I think, right? Didn't you? Or at least maybe you're sorting it right now. Bob Chapek was trying to kill DEI. He wanted to focus on parks and cruises. Iger let him be the fall guy. The stock rallied under Chapek. It rallied, but then it was challenged, right? Don, I mean, I think Chapek was up against a machine because Bob had already put in all of these woke people that all had these woke agendas. I played you guys a couple of weeks ago the soundbite of the woman saying, oh, we need this, we need more trans, we need more gay people as our fine. Look, you know what? I'm not going to judge, but I'm going to just tell you, this. We can get into that another time, right? But I'm going to just tell you, as a consumer, do you think that that's what I want to take my kids to see? Short answer, no. No one does. They were making fun of the flyover states. Guess what? The flyover states are actually their customers. They have lost their core customer because much like Bud Light, they didn't care about their core customer. They didn't respect their core customer, and their core customer is leaving in droves. And now they got the government on their back like you wouldn't believe, and it's kind of great. Really, it is. It's kind of great. Reminder to subscribe, share. Like, this is great, right? Like, this is the future. They're doing a terrible job at streaming because, look, if you don't have good content to stream, it doesn't matter. Here I am out on my own, totally independent. It's just me and you guys. And look at how we've been growing. I mean, we're coming up on 700,000 subs here on this channel. And it's because I think people respond to authenticity. They respond to something that's real. And they don't want the wokeified BS that Disney's dishing out all day long. I mean, that's all they got, right? It's pretty gross.